out there. So now let's meet Zainab. Zainab Aderounmu, AW, is a first-class graduate of English language from Lagos State University, LASU, Nigeria, and an award-winning public speaker and communications coach. She has trained over 100 public speakers in storytelling and effective communication and has hosted several high-profile events as a certified event host. With experience as a radio host at LASU Radio and a media personality at Narrate Media, she currently works as a correspondent at Business Day Communications. Throughout our academic journey, Zainab held several leadership positions, including Speaker of the National Association of Students of English and Literary Studies Parliament, Honorable Member of the Lasusu Parliament, and Chairman of the In-House Committee on Academics. As a Millennium Fellow 2021, she founded the Confidence Community, an initiative under SDG 4 empowering women to build confidence and competence for success. In 2023, she served as the Sustainable Solutions Development Network SDSN Lagos State representative, leading 1,000 advocates to promote action SDG 13. She also completed the Lead Like a Girl Fellowship with Shinomics, executing a sustainable project, seventh generation thinking. Currently serving as a Lagos State Youth Ambassador, Zainab leads a cross-functional team of 50 young changemakers, executing over 15 social development projects and impacting more than 10,000 youth and school children. She also represents young people in high profile meetings, including the Lagos State Youth Policy Review Committee. Passionate about women's development, she's committed to advocating for women, for Muslim women, and believes in the power of representation. A passionate reader and lover of African literature, Zainab continues to drive social change through leadership, advocacy, and storytelling. Wow, this profile is packed. I told you earlier that Zainab is an outstanding fellow. At Mr. B's Foundation, we go several lengths to give you the best of the best when it comes to this. So looking at this profile alone, like I said earlier, if your friends are not here, then they are all missing out. So please let's give a round of applause. Let's show some love to Zainab Aderounmu as she takes up this mic and starts our session. You're welcome, Zainab. Thank you very much.
Hi, hi, hi. Good afternoon. I think we're in the afternoon already. Okay, I've
Yes,
been
we
indoor all
are.
day. I've been indoor all day, so I'm hardly keeping tabs of time. It's really, really great and amazing to be here. Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. I was wondering, is this my profile? Because I think you did a little bit of research. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I think I'm going to adopt this version that you have given to me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. I can see a number of people in the room. So I genuinely believe that this session is too important for us to be this few. So if you have somebody, and of course, the Missy B Foundation has put in so much work. Shout out to Zainab Yahya, my very good friend. Well done, and thank you for putting this together for young people. So if you have somebody who is your friend, your they don't necessarily have to be your friend, maybe your frenemy or your acquaintance, somebody you think should be here, just quickly reach out to them. We're going to give a minute for that. You can repost the link to register on your status. You can just quickly put it somewhere, maybe in a group chat or something, so that we know that we tried our best to put out the information, and anybody who saw it but then they missed it, then that's definitely on them, not on you. So do that very quickly. Let's do that very quickly. Good afternoon once again. It's a pleasure to be here. I think I'm going to start sharing my screen. Am I allowed to share my screen?
Yes, you are. You are a co-host. Yes.
Okay, but I can still see host disabled attendee sharing screen. That's what
Oh,
I can.
sorry. Okay, I think I made one of your accounts. Let me make this
Oh,
ghost.
this particular one that's speaking. I was using
Okay,
this one
please check
to.
it now.
Okay, let me check. Okay, I can share my screen now.
Okay, excellent.
All right, so before we actually get into it, I want to know that we are human beings in the room so that it's not like we're just talking to ourselves, or so that it's not like I'm just talking to myself. Please let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, I can.
All right, great. So, who is here with us? I want to see your reaction in the chat box. Tell us where you're joining us from or where you learned about this session from. Are you a fellow? Are you a mentee, if I got that correctly, of the Mr. B Foundation? Or did you get the information online somewhere from a friend? Let us know where you're joining us from because we are very few. It's very it's very easy to even do like a closely knit session. So I can easily call anybody's name. So don't let me start calling names. I want to see your reactions in the chat box. Let's see. Where did you join from or where are you joining from? And where did you get the information about this session from? Let's put it in the chat box very quickly. I can't see anything in the chats yet. Doesn't mean that some people just joined this session and they dropped their phones and just left. So I can see Lukman Adama. I can see Umhani Bello. I hope I got that correctly. I can see Adeboye Akinde. I can see Kamilan Sani. I can see Tony Tosin. I beg your pardon, Yusuf. I can see Zainab Yahya. I can see Sakina Okoyemi and Musharraf Abolari, and of course the host of this session. Okay, so some people are already putting this. Um, Umhani says, I saw the invite flyer on your Instagram. Okay, that's amazing. I'm not sure which of our Instagrams because it was shared on both Mr. B and mine, but it's great to know that you came here from Instagram. Welcome. I can see Tosin says, joining from, what is this? Can you help us explain what is Mon Gladbach? Yeah, it feels good to be here. So help us explain what does Monchen Gladbach? It sounds German or Russian or something. So you can help us explain what it is so that we know exactly what you're talking about and where you joined us from. Does it mean that we're only two people in the room? Hi, Zainab. Welcome. It's good to have you here. Zainab is the foundation secretary and she's joining from Lagos. Okay, she's going from Nigeria. She didn't particularly put whether it's Lagos. Sekina Musharraf and Kamilan. I can see more responses. So Sekina Yusuf is joining from Ogun State, Nigeria. Welcome, welcome. You heard about it through a post. It's good to be here. It's good to have you here as well. Oh my God. Mönchengladbach is a city in Western Germany. You know, I said it sounds German or Russian. It's so nice to know that we're not just. So it means I don't know. Are you in the morning? In case you're not in the morning, good day, whatever time of the day it is that you are joining from. Camila Sani is joining from Frankfurt, Germany as well. Wow, that's a minute, please. Yeah, so Camilo Sani is also joining from Frankfurt, Germany. That's really amazing to know as well that we have people from different parts of the world. So we have people from Nigeria, we also have people from Germany. And that's wonderful to know that we're not just here afternoon. Okay, great. So we're both in the afternoon as well. So it's good to know that we're not just impacting a particular set of people, but we're able to spread our wings. So kudos to the Mr. B Foundation on that. Okay, now let's go straight into this session. Today we're talking about the art of communication and specifically the art of communication to influence. So speaking to influence people because there are different purposes or there are different importance of public speaking. But influence is something that you definitely want to learn if you're going to be somebody who's going to be successful or somebody who's going to lead other people. You need to be able to influence them to do certain things or to see things the way that you see them from your own perspective. And that's what influence is all about. I really want to hear, we have gotten a feel of the room, but I still want to hear your voices. So share a public speaking fail. When was one time where you tried to speak and it was a total disaster? Share a public speaking fail. Anybody, you can just unmute your microphone and share. You don't have to. I don't have to call out names the way I called out the other time. So tell us a public speaking fail. Anybody who's volunteering for that, or should I call somebody? Let's do that very quickly. We still have a whole session ahead of us. Is there anybody who's volunteering to speak? Okay. Musharraf, can you hear me? I don't think you mentioned where you're joining us from, so I'm a little bit concerned. Musharraf Abolari, I'm asking you to unmute if you'd like to share a public speaking fail, or it could be a win. So it doesn't have to be a fail. We don't have to always romanticize our failures, right? So it could be a public speaking win. So just share when you tried public speaking and raise your hand to be unmuted. So please raise your hand if you want to speak so that you can be unmuted. But let's have somebody. We're not moving ahead if we don't have anybody share their failure or their win. Somebody should please, and no, it cannot be Zainab, it cannot be the host. It has to be one of the participants of this session. No hand is raised. Musharraf Abolari, can you hear? Okay, so I can see a hand raised. Tosin Yusuf, your hand is raised.
Okay, good afternoon,
Good
Zainab.
afternoon.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to learn from your wealth of experience. Well, just it's kind of a failure, but also something that I was really glad that it happened because gave me the opportunity to learn and improved immediately. So it was my first presentation at work in Germany here. And yeah, the head of my team was supposed to give the presentation, and he went on an emergency leave just 2 days to the event. It's like a company-wide event. So I had to step in 2 days to the event. I was told, okay, the presentation was ready. Okay, go through it and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I used like less than 40 hours to prepare. Something I didn't prepare with presentation, even though I know about the project and everything, but something I did not do myself. I had to, yeah. So we communicated over in 40 hours or less to prepare. And yeah, I thought I was ready, but at the day of the event, yeah, 5 minutes to my time, I was already maybe praying that the something should just happen, technical fault should just happen so that we can end the event or something like that. But fortunately for me, nothing happened. Everything was planned and everything was going fine. So I had to take the mic and speak, even though I know 99% of the project, but telling it to senior colleagues and executive members in the room was something very, very different, and being my first time as well. So I went through almost 35 slides of presentation in less than 15 minutes. You can see how anxious I sorry, my daughter is I was very anxious and speaking almost like 100 words per minute. And so just to say what I want to say and get out of the way. Yeah, I finished in less than 20 minutes, even though I had 1 hour to speak. I finished in less than 30, less than 20 minutes, and yeah, I didn't even know how I performed, but my boss was recording was shooting me from his phone. So he showed me the video later, and the next day, everyone, we laughed about it, and that was like a turning point for me. And I had to watch the video again to see, come on, yeah. But alhamdulillah, that was like it was not so successful, even though they gave me the kudos and okay, in 2 days, blah, blah. But then personally, I know it was the learning point for me when it comes to speaking. Yeah, that would be all. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being vulnerable. And I think that's one of the essence of these sessions. The fact that you have to be able to acknowledge that, yes, I tried this, it didn't work, but knowing that it is a journey, something that you can learn and you can hone, that's the most important thing. So sorry you felt you were prepared, but when it was time, it was almost as if all that preparation was for nothing. It happens. And we're going to sort of understand why going forward. But well done to you, and congratulations on your public speaking fail. It just means that you're human because a lot of people have gone through it. I have a series of experiences like that. And I mean, I have been speaking for a while. So imagine me having a series of experiences like that. So, yes, well done. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
I can see
Yeah.
Sekina. Yes, thank you. Sekina's hand is also raised. So we can take Sekina and then we'll go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Okay, for me, it was during I'm a student of LASU of Lagos State University, so I'm in my final year. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, please go ahead.
So what happened was, I had a seminar to present, and I was on the chair, and I was so scared to go and though it was about just 10 minutes presentation, but I was so scared. Getting to the podium, I didn't know where the courage came from, and I just continued speaking. So when I finished, people were like, "Oh, I did well, and it was nice." Even my supervisor commended me, and I think it was, I don't know how to say, is it a fail win or something? I was scared at first, and it went well at the end of the day. So that's my experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for sharing, Sakina. So I'm happy to announce to you that it's a win, regardless of what emotion clouded the situation. The fact that you were still able to speak and you were still able to get your message across, it's definitely a win. In fact, if you're able to even stand in front of people and say a few things, you have already won because you have overcome a limitation that many people, and statistics says that about 70% of people experience phobia, which is I remember the first time I was asked, I think I was in my first year in the university student, but before I graduated, I was in 100 level, like a lot of people. I think it was a group work, it was a group assignment. And because I studied English, the other people were from different departments or different courses like sciences, computer science, engineering, and they felt, okay, sister, you studied English or you're studying English, it means you can speak. So they pushed me forward with the idea that because I'm studying English, I can definitely speak. And I can tell you that I went on stage and I fumbled, like outright fumbled. I could hardly get a word out. I could I could not hear myself. I don't know if anybody experiences that when you're on stage, you're speaking to people, they can hear your voice, but you can't even hear yourself. It's because your heartbeat or your palpitations were louder than your voice. So that day it was like an eye opener for me because I took it for granted that, okay, I'm definitely going to kill this. And then I went on stage and it was a different matter. Aside that, I think I've had a couple of other experiences too where I tried, I know that I've done this before, I'm doing this again, but it didn't particularly go as planned, right? But I can tell you that between then and now, this was who I was then, a very shy, timid person who could hardly get a word out on stage. And even when it comes to group talking or group conversations, I prefer to listen than to speak. But now, I can tell you that I'm an award winning public speaker. I'm a global youth ambassador, which means that I lead teams in developing and executing social impact projects. And of course, if you lead people, you know that you have to speak. I am the hijabi compare, which means that I'm an MC, a corporate event host. I host corporate events. I'm also a business journalist and a communications professional. And you already know this part of me studying English. But what happened? What was the difference between who I was then and who I am now? The gap, what went down in that gap? That's what we're going to be talking about today. And the essence of that gap was public speaking. And what I've learned over 6 years of doing this, of talking to people, coaching, developing my skills, and ending up becoming a pro, is that public speaking is a learnable skill. Please, I need somebody to put it in the chat box. Public speaking is a learnable skill. Just put it in the chat so that we know that we're still together and I'm not just talking to myself. So put it in the chat box. Public speaking is learnable. Public speaking is learnable. I want to see a couple of public speaking is learnable before I go ahead. Nobody's typing. Nobody's typing. I don't understand. Why is nobody typing? Can you hear me, please? Okay,
Yes,
okay,
there are
great. Okay, okay,
several.
okay. Maybe
Okay,
it's,
can you say, okay.
yes, I think it was a slow reception. So public speaking is a learnable skill. It is totally like every other skill out there. It's like cooking. It's like driving. It is like what other skills like data analytics or what are those tech skills that people learn these days? It's like UX, UI, UX. It's like whatever skill that you place your hand on, public speaking is just like it. And what's the difference? What's that thing about skills? Is that the more you do it, the better you get at it. So you need to first of all come out of that mental space where you feel like, oh, some people were born with it, because some people believe that some people are natural speakers, and yes, it is true that some people are natural speakers, but it does not mean that if you are not born with that gift that you cannot hone it. No. So public speaking is a learnable skill. And what is public speaking? I like to define public speaking as both an act and an art. So we're talking about the art of public speaking, but when you combine the two together, that's when you're able to be effective. You're able to speak effectively and able to pass your message. The act is what I'm doing right now. It's not a stage per se. It's a virtual speaking it's a virtual speaking platform, but it's still public speaking because I'm talking in front of a screen and I'm trying to pass a message. I'm trying to teach something. That's the act. But then there is an art of it. When I started, I didn't just jump into it and say, oh, everybody, how are you today? Today we're talking about. No, I tried to get a feel of the room. That's audience engagement, right? I try to get an understanding of the people who are in the room. That's understanding your audience. Those are some of the techniques of public speaking. So I've talked about audience engagement. I've talked about understanding your audience so that I know that when I'm passing my message, I'm using appropriate language. For example, I now know that we have a student in the room. I know that we have a professional in the room. So I'm able to tune my language to fit everybody. Imagine if I was talking to children. I won't be talking like this. I'll probably be using high pitch. How are you? I hope you're very well today. What did you have for breakfast? I would try to get children excited because children are usually energetic. And because it's a virtual platform, they will definitely have a very short attention span. So I would need to exert more energy because I'm talking to children. So public speaking, the art is when you're able to understand the technicalities of the speech or of the engagement. So now I know that I'm talking to professionals and students. I also know that there's somebody who is not in Nigeria. So I won't, if I'm going to use examples, I will try to use maybe like a universal example that everybody would understand. I will know that, okay, because of the audience that I have, I am tuning my message to fit them. That is where the art comes in, understanding the tips the techniques, the procedures of doing things, and the technicalities behind the working. So you see people speaking, and you're like, oh my God, I really like this person. But they're making use of certain things that you might not really know if you're not a professional. And that's what the art of public speaking is. But then it also has a goal. When I started, I said public speaking has a purpose, different importance, different purposes. It could be that you want to inform people, like I'm doing now. This is like a lecture, some sort of lecture, if you can call it that. I'm trying to inform you and to teach you about the art of public speaking. It could be that you're trying to persuade people. For example, if you were campaigning, or if you wanted to run for office, any kind of office, whatever, maybe university, student union, or something like that, or maybe even in maybe as a professional, you have a union or a group that you belong to, and you want to be president or you want to be secretary or something, then you would have to use public speaking as a tool to persuading people. Or you could be entertaining people or just plain out inspiring people. But there are different purposes to public speaking, right? But the essence is that in all of these things, there is an element of influence. So if I'm not able to influence you, you probably would just be taking what I'm saying with a pinch of the salt. You probably say, oh, I don't think I want to believe what she's saying. I can't see. That's another thing under public speaking. When you can see your audience, you are able to read their body language so that you know if they're receiving your message well. But when you cannot see them, you know that, okay, this is more technical than when I can see them, right? So that's another thing you want to take note of. So it involves when you harness both your verbal and non-verbal tools. So when I mean verbal, I'm talking about voice, I'm talking about vocal, I'm talking about what you can hear or what you can see, so to speak, and what you can hear rather. And non-verbal tools, that's my body language. You can see that I'm using my hands, I'm trying to gesticulate, I'm using my face. I've been smiling because I've been trying to warm up to the audience and get the room to become warm and everybody, come together. It's not cold or hot. No, it's not cold. Let's use the word cold, so to speak. So you have to use both verbal, non-verbal tools to communicate what you have to communicate. It could be ideas, it could be emotions. For example, when Tosin, you shared your story, you said you were going to communicate the project to senior people, to other people on your team. So you had been working on your project, you had to communicate what went down, how it went, what the outcome of that project was about. So that's one of the things that you could be communicating. It could be ideas, it could be the result of something, it could be your emotions, but in essence, you are trying to connect with your listeners. You're trying to get them to understand what you're saying from your own perspective. And that's the essence. What you heard last, because I had spoken for a while before I realized that I wasn't
Oh,
in the
okay.
room.
I think you were still talking about it being an art.
Okay. So I will send. You said you heard what I talked about. It was a persuasive. It could be for persuasive purposes, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I was talking about the fact that when did you hear my analogy on interviews?
No, no, no.
Okay. So I said that public speaking can be for different engagements. It could be for different purposes, from information. You're trying to inform people. That's when your lecturer is literally trying to teach you a particular topic. Or if you Google something, or maybe you check up a video on YouTube, whatever that person is saying to you in that video is a type of informative speech. And then persuasive speeches, that's when you're trying to persuade people to see things from your own perspective, or you are trying to get people to get you to do something, or when you're trying to get people to trust you. Yes, that's the word. So for example, now I gave the analogy on interviews, that in that interview, you are trying to get your potential employer to trust you enough to give you the job. And believe it or not, it's also a form of public speaking, right? So that's on persuasive speeches. And then I went on to ceremonial speeches. Just a minute, please. Definitely matters. It is an art, and it's also an act, and it is also very, very learnable. Thank you very much, Ibukun. Yes, Zainab, public speaking is a learnable skill. Now, just before I went up, I was talking about ceremonial speeches. Yes, you can just move on to the part of types of speeches. Yes, so ceremonial speeches, those are the type of speeches that you would normally give at events like birthdays or at a wedding when you're called upon to give a toast at your sister's wedding or at your best friend's wedding. That's a ceremonial speech. Or the kind of speech that a president would give at his inauguration. So when a new president has been inaugurated, that presidential speech is a ceremonial one. And then we also talk about impromptu speeches. And I think this is where Tosin's story is very, very relevant and very relatable. You had already prepared that your boss would give the speech and that he would be the one to present your ideas on behalf of the team. And somehow it was not available and you had to do it. That was totally impromptu. The good thing for you is that you even had enough time, for almost 40 hours, if I remember you correctly, to present or to prepare. There are some impromptu speeches that would only give you 5 minutes to prepare, and you have to deliver on the spot. It happens like that, and I've been in such situations. I've even been in an impromptu hosting situation. So I was not the original event host. I attended the event, and somehow the host did not show up, and they said, "Oh, Zainab, please, we need you." In such situations, what would you do? Would you say, "Oh, I can't do it"? Then what's the essence of being a professional? Of course, you can turn it down, but you will turn it down depending on the kind of situation. So, for example, now you could not turn down the one at work. Imagine they would say, "Oh, why can you not speak? Oh, because I'm scared or because I'm not prepared." Then they would say, "Maybe we shouldn't even hire you," or something like that. Right. That's on impromptu speeches. We could also talk about inspirational speeches. These are the aspire to perspire kind of speeches that you would normally get from motivational people, but it's also a type of speech, right? And then demonstrative speeches are speeches that you're trying to sort of explain something in a way that you have to demonstrate what you're explaining. So, for example, if I were teaching something about robotics and I have to use physical robots and stuff to show that this is how it works, then that's like a demonstrative speech. And now that's some types of speeches, or you could call it the purposes or the purpose of public speaking. But now let's talk about why public speaking. And I think this is where we move on to the next slide. Public speaking, we have established, builds confidence. It helps you. You definitely, when you can speak to people, there's a different kind of vibe. Let me use the word vibe that you feel. You feel very at ease with yourself and you feel happy that, yes, I can speak to these, even if it's a crowd of 2,000 people, I can talk to them. And I always like to say that it does not matter how many people are in the audience. It definitely doesn't matter. What matters is that you are able to deliver to no matter how many there are. They could be two, they could be three, or they could be 2,000, right? Of course, the energy levels you would exert would be different. If there are two people, you would not have to really, project your voice in such a way that you're now screaming. But if there are 2,000 people, oh my God, you would have to project a lot. But public speaking helps you build your confidence levels. It also enhances your communication, but also your leadership skills, specifically your leadership skills. People like to follow somebody that they can present to other people. They like to follow somebody who can speak to them in dire situations. For example, imagine there's something that's going on and then there's like an uncertain situation in your workplace and everybody's wondering what's going on, what's happening. In those little moments of speculating, imagine you have a leader who would just come up front, call, say, like a general meeting, address everybody and try to placate everybody's emotions or everybody's anger or anguish or whatever emotion it is that you're feeling. And then he also in the same breath, or she also in the same breath, set a vision forward. It will be so inspirational. It will be so, okay, this person actually knows what they're doing, or this person actually knows how to lead other people. So communication, public speaking makes you a much more effective leader. It also opens doors in, opportunities, both in academics and in career. And I can really, really speak from experience in line of academics, career, and even advocacy, because I do all of those three things. I remember how I got my first job. Immediately after I got out of the university, I'd not even gotten my certificates by then. But then I spoke at an event, and one of the keynote speakers walked up to me and said, "Oh, you have to work for me." I did not show him a CV. I didn't do anything except speak at that event. And he said, "Oh, this person, I need you to work for me." And that company formed the foundation of my career as a communications officer. So public speaking would definitely open a lot of doors for you. And I can imagine that the students and the professionals in this room can attest to that. So I don't think I really need to emphasize the importance of that, right? And then you also going back to what we're talking about today, influence. It empowers you to be able to influence other people and to actuate. Actuating means moving people to action. And I see that personally as the end result of any kind of speech. So you could be trying to inform people, but it would have been a waste if you inform them and they did not move to do anything, or they didn't commit to taking any action. For example, at the end of today, I have it at the back of my mind that, okay, when we are done with this session, the attendees or the participants must commit to bettering their public speaking prowess, or must commit to furthering their public speaking journey. So there are some things that you have to learn today that I know that, okay, we have to apply these things, right? So let's move on to the next thing. What are those things, or what is that particular hindrance to your public speaking success? So now, Tosin, if I ask you to look back, right, and I think I want you to speak now in this moment. Sorry that I'm using you as an example, but we already heard your story and we have something to build on. If I ask you to look back on that particular day when you delivered, or when you had to speak to your bosses and everybody, what was the one thing that was stopping you from speaking? In the moment, what was that one thing that you felt like, okay, this was what made me apprehensive, or this was what made me afraid of speaking? Tosin, do you want to unmute your microphone and speak?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of emotions or things going through my mind then, but what stops them would be um, if I would be able to communicate technically enough, because it's a group of engineers, including, like I mentioned, executive members of the company, and if I would be able to, and we are also one of the aim of the speech of the presentation was to, it's like presenting a business case to get more fund for the project. So my fear was what thought my fear was, if I'll be able to do justice to the business part of the presentation, and we will earn the funds for the department, you understand? Or if it goes otherwise, then I play a major role in not getting the fund that we actually want. So that fear, So, but in the end, we got it. So, but yeah, thank you.
Congratulations to you that you got it. Well done. I hope
Yeah,
that you actually got the promotion or a raise. But I can see that from everything you said, the overarching theme was fear. It was fear, fright, stage
yeah.
fright. And yes, thank you. And if you experience stage fright, I'm just going to say congratulations to you, because it means that you are a human being. Everybody experiences stage fright, of course, in varying levels, in varying degrees, different degrees. Some people experience it so much that it cripples them, they're unable to speak at all. And some people, it's just really little and they go ahead. But the truth is, the fear of public speaking, or stage fright, so to speak, is not the reason why you cannot speak. There are many other reasons why you cannot speak. But before we go to the reasons why you cannot speak, you need to arrest that mind, or that voice in your head that keeps speaking negativity to you. And that's why I said it here, that you need to arrest the mind hater. You need to find a way to curb your stage fright tendencies. And how do you curb your stage fright tendencies? It comes from researching. So Tosin, because you already knew the meat or the content of what you were speaking about, you were still able to deliver to some extent. But there are some people who, when they don't know anything, and generally when you have little knowledge of something, you become very afraid of whether you're able to convince people, whether they would actually believe you, or if they would even see and know that, oh, I don't know this thing, I haven't prepared, I'm not really sure I can deliver. So uncertainty coming from lack of practice or lack of preparation. So how do you arrest the mind hater? Just practice. Prepare, first of all. You have to prepare. How do you prepare? You research. You check information online. Just do your research. You know how to research. And then you practice. You've prepared something. You can simulate an audience. I think we can move on to the next slide. I think there's something on the next slide to that regard. Yes, okay, stage. Okay, I think I already talked about yeah, well, we're on the third, the triangle. Can you see it? Okay, yes. So prepare, practice, research. You have to prepare. Once you've researched, then prepare how you're going to. So you're not just preparing what you want to say, but you're also preparing how to say it. You have itemizing that, okay, this is how I'm going to start, this is what I'm going to say, and this is how I'm going to finish. And that's why, for example, I'm speaking to you from experience and from my knowledge, but I've also had to prepare something because no two audiences are the same. Different audience or audiences generally are different. So the way I would speak to a total makeup of students is different from how I would speak to a total makeup of professionals, right? And so because I recognized that, I had to create an outline by the way of these slides to know that, okay, this is exactly how I'm going to start. This is what I'm going to say next. This is what I'm going to say at the end. It doesn't mean that you need a slide for every speech, no, but you need to prepare for everything you have to do, even if it's an impromptu speech. And please remind me at the end of the session to say a little about practice or preparing for impromptu speeches, because I don't think I included it in the slides. But please remind me. So even for impromptu speeches, you have to prepare. After preparing, you need to practice. Practice, practice, practice. It's very important. And then a surefire way, one thing I always do to overcome my stage fright is before the day, I visualize my success. So we have this tendency to always visualize how everything can go wrong. For example, Tosin, if you remember, you were saying, oh, there should just be technicalities or technical issues or something like that, right? We always envision how things should go wrong. But I invite you to envision the other way around. Envision every technical issue being sorted. Envision you getting up on stage and people clapping for you. Envision, yes, visualize your success. Envision you speaking to people and them understanding and even contributing to what you're saying. You have to be able to visualize your success. And then finally, when you're about to start, in that very moment, and this is, I think, Sekina, you probably want to pay attention. You know, you said that you were already into it, you wanted to do it, but then when you wanted to start, it was a little bit shaky, but then you still went ahead. The fright comes the strongest in the first 10 to 20 seconds of your speech. And that's why I always advocate, learn whatever it is you want to say first. Like, so your introduction, know your introduction by heart. So that even if, and God forbid, the heavens will not fall, but even if the heavens are falling, I will still say, this is my introduction. I will introduce, this is how I want to introduce it, and this is what I want to say. So because you already know what you want to say, you are able to forge on, you're able to carry on regardless. But if you're not really sure what you want to start with or what you want to say, then the first 10 minutes, or the first 10 seconds rather, it doesn't go up to 10 minutes, it's just 10 seconds. It would destabilize you in such a way that you would not like it. So you have to, in those 10 minutes, calm yourself, know exactly what you want to say, and press on. That's how you arrest the mind hater, or you arrest the criminal. I like to call it the criminal in the mind. Right. So now let's move on to the next slide. And this is talking about influence. There are several reasons why you cannot influence other people when you're speaking. And one of the reasons One of the reasons is your uncertainty. People can read you. They know when you're not confident. They know when you're not sure of what you are saying. And they know once they see that, oh, this person is not sure, they just lock off, or they just, they don't believe whatever it is that you're saying anymore. And that's the end, right? So that's one of the reasons why you cannot influence other people. But these three elements that are highlighted on your screen, I believe everybody can see it. Yes. So ethos, pathos, and logos, I would say, is the cradle of influence. Ethos has to deal with the ethical aspect. So how let me put it in this way: how qualified are you to teach us, or how qualified are you to deliver this thing to us? How qualified are you to what's your expertise? So let's say ethos is expertise. I'm tossing this has to do with when you wanted to deliver the speech and people would have said, oh, he worked on the team, or he's part of the team. Because I'm sure people would have questioned, why is it this person that's delivering the speech and not the head or the team lead or the manager in charge? Why is it this person? And then they'll say, oh, he worked on the team, and say, oh, he worked on the team. That is your expertise. That is what qualifies you to be able to deliver that speech. And you need to be able to quickly establish your expertise. For example, when we started this session, when we started this event, beyond Mistura, or beyond, I think it was Mistura, beyond Mistura talking about me and saying, oh, this is our speaker, beyond her reading my bio, I took you through a story of how I started from being a very shy person, being a very timid person, to becoming an award-winning public speaker. In that moment, what I did was establishing my expertise. I'm telling you that, okay, I know exactly what I'm saying. And that's what ethos is all about. So you need to be able to quickly, in the very few moments, in the very beginning of whatever it is you're saying, you need to be able to quickly establish your expertise. And then when we come to pathos, that's the emotional pull. So if you remember clearly, and I hope that we're really taking notes, because I'm teaching you the act and I'm also teaching you the art. So when we started, I asked two volunteers to give us their public speaking feel. What I did there was to tap into your emotions. So when you remember, oh, wow, this thing, I didn't do well, but it went well, but at least I think you're really exuding emotions, and people are able to go through your emotions because different people, I'm sure everybody here, if you don't have a public speaking fail, just raise your hand. You've never experienced a public speaking failure. Okay, so no hand is raised. So I want to assume that everybody have had at some point a public speaking failure. And so what I did in that moment was to tap into your emotions, to tell you that, okay, we're all humans here, and this is how you need to understand this thing so that we're able to learn. Really, what I did was just to sort of open up the floor, sort of open up the emotive aspect of the audience. And you need to be able to pull on emotion. You need to be able to pull people's emotions. Okay, so Akorede Barakat is raising her hand. Does that mean you've never had a public speaking fail, or are you trying to ask a question? Baraka, you want to unmute your microphone and tell us you've never had a public speaking fail. Everything has always gone right the way you want it to go. Is that what you're saying? What? I didn't get that.
I've never had a public speaking.
Okay, amazing. How many years of public speaking experience do you have?
I've never had one before.
So you've never tried it. Is that what you're saying? Okay, so now I understand you. Don't worry. This is like it's supposed to be an activation, or it's supposed to be some sort of motivation for you to get your public speaking experience. Hopefully it goes well, right? So the final thing on this influence, few minutes more, okay. Let me just sort of rush through. The final thing on this aspect is logos, and that's the logicality of what you're saying. You need to be able to establish that there is logic in what you're saying, and that's what really helps you to influence a set of people, a group of people. Let's move on very quickly. I think I still have a number of things to share. Now, practical tips for influence. establish your credibility through your voice and your confidence. There are some times when, I don't know if you've ever noticed, when somebody is trying to speak, but because they're not speaking up, because their voice is not assertive, you don't even believe what they're saying. It happens. And that's why voice is very important for influence. Also, use your body effectively. Use your body language. Don't just sit down or stand somewhere and put your hands at your back or your hands in your front. No, you're not convincing that way. You're not influencing anybody. So use your body language and use your stage. So if you have a stage, you want to use it very well. And then organize your thoughts and use stories. When I started this session, I started with a story of how I went from A to Z, right? So you have to be able to use storytelling. Stories are very, very, very sticky, and people like to listen to stories. The next slide here is something we actually want to pay attention to. Please move on to the next slide. We have tools for public speaking. I already mentioned storytelling, but it's something that I still need to hammer on, because the most effective tool in the history of public speaking is the use of stories. The moment you tell somebody a story and you tell it effectively, you have to be able to tell the story effectively. You are connected with them. The moment you are able to tell a story, you have immediately connected with them, right? Then you want to be able to use facts and statistics. I remember at the beginning when I started, I dropped in a little bit of 70% of people globally experience the fear of public speaking. That's a fact, right? And when you put in facts and statistics, people know that you have done your research. People know that you know exactly what you're saying. And then you also want to use analogies. So examples of something, rather than saying, interviews, or no, rather than saying public speaking can also be used to persuade people. I give you the analogy of an interview. So there's an interviewer and there's an interviewee, and you have to persuade the potential employer that you are the best fit. That was an analogy. You have to be able to use analogies. And then use frameworks. What I mean by frameworks is so that you're able to organize your thoughts. For example, if you're asked to introduce yourself, and I put down a framework here. I said, you say your name, you say what you believe in, you say your game, and you say your aim. That's a framework for introducing yourself. Your name, my name is Zainab Aderounmu. What do you believe in? I believe that public speaking is a learnable skill. What is your game? I'm a public speaker and a coach. I'm also a communications professional. And what is your aim? I aim to train XYZ number of public speakers globally. That is very simple, very effective, very professional. It's a framework that you want to copy. So let's move on. I think we're nearing the end. Okay, I think that's all really. Yeah, so how many more minutes do we have, Mistura? You said a few more minutes, but I think we're already done.
Yes, we are actually done. So I think
We're
it's
done.
time for questions. Yeah.
So thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for being very engaged. And that's how I like to have my classes. So we know that everybody's engaged, everybody's sharing, and it's not just one person to another person. Let's have questions. But in
Yeah,
the
thank you
meantime,
very much, Zainab. To remind you, you mentioned you wanted to drop tips on impromptu speech, which I'm sure is going to be very useful for our mentees because we plan on having activities around that. So please do.
okay, so impromptu speeches, especially when you have little time to prepare, the best thing you want to do is filter your mind. So, for example, the topic is love is war. So they give you a topic, love is war. Filter your mind. What are the first things that jump? What are the first things that jump at you? So, for example, if you're filtering your mind, for example, I'm thinking now, and I'm thinking love is war, and in my head, I'm thinking about the story of Romeo and Juliet. I will just immediately write it down. Romeo and Juliet. Romeo loved Juliet, but their families did not want them to be together, so they had to fight for their love. And at the end of the day, both of them killed themselves. Then the next thing that's probably jumping at me is the fact that what else is jumping at me? So I could throw in a definition of love, and then I could throw in a definition of war, and then I could actuate, just sort of put a conclusion on the fact that love doesn't come easy. So even if you are in a situation where everything aligns, you still have to work things out with your partner. You still have to sort of go through those nitty-gritties with your partner, because two of you I'm already giving a speech. Oh, wow. Please, somebody should clap for me. Two of you are from different backgrounds, right? And you have to live together. It means that there will be situations where you will clash and there will be disharmony. And so in that moment, love is war. I have given a very simple impromptu speech and I prepared for an impromptu speech in less than 3 minutes. That's how you do your impromptu speeches. You filter your mind, you take what jumps at you, and then you put a structure to it. So this is what I'm going to say first, my introduction. These are the next 2 points. So I started with love is war, Romeo and Juliet. That's my introduction. Then love is the definition of love. That's my first point. The definition of war. That's my second point. Then the fact that when you come together with somebody else, even if it does not even necessarily have to be like a partnership. It could just be you working with people. You will definitely clash because you're different people. That's my third point. And then finally, if you want to work in harmony with people, you have to understand them. That's the end. I have given an impromptu speech in less than 3 minutes. But the trick here is that you have to be a consumer. And when I mean that you have to be a consumer, what I mean is that you have to feed your mind. A public speaker is not somebody who just sits and doesn't consume things. You have to read, maybe watch movies. I advocate watching movies. You have to listen to podcasts. You have to feed your mind as much as possible so that there is always material for you to hold on to when you need it. For you to feed on. There's always material for you to use in cases where you cannot research. And that's the trick of impromptu speeches. You filter your mind, outline what you want to say, and put a structure to it. And by the time you get on stage, you just keep flowing because so that's it. Mr. Please put it on the next slide so that in the
Okay, I guess there's a little bit of glitch again. So to connect with Zainab or on social media, you can reach out to her using this social media